SEC football. It just means more. Now back to your favorite bearded duo, Todd and Marty.
Welcome back, guys, to another great episode of the Under Review podcast. And today I'm on the unicycle all by myself. Just remember, I'm your host, the best bearded one, Marty. Episode 48 should be super exciting. Ready to get this broke down for y'all. So hope you enjoy it. But before we get super kicked off, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
This episode of the Under Review podcast is brought to you by Chuck's Heating and Air. Chuck has over 40 years of service and experience with residential services. He services most makes and models. He is Alabama licensed, bonded, and insured, and locally owned and operated. Are you hot and you're supposed to be cool? Are you cool and you're supposed to be hot? Then you've got a problem. Call Chuck. Area code 256-892-2757. Again, 256-892-2757. Chuck's Heating and Air.
Again, of course, we always want to thank Chuck and all his great work he does for us and keeping us cool and keeping us hot when we need to be. Here we go again, fans. This episode of the Under Review podcast are clearly the opinions of the crew. There was a lot of time and effort that went into this, whether we may be right or wrong. That is for us up to decide. And if you don't like it, get your own podcast. So, guys, let's talk about it here this week. A super kind of laid back show, I guess you would say. This is our second off-season show that we're doing. The first was the great episode, the Roundtable, where we had the whole crew in. Major Duckworth was in. Super glad to have him as always. Can't wait till he's back with us. So what are we talking about today, guys? It's going to be the SEC's best stadiums. There's so many different ways you can look at this, whether it's teams coming into play or the atmosphere once in the game, the atmosphere of, like, if it's a blackout game, white out, stripe the stadium, which a few of the SEC teams do. This is pretty much not, say, like the atmosphere outside the game, as we'll look at too when we get into some of the teams. Not just the whole game day atmosphere. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. This is when the coin flip is over, you're lined up to kick it off. Where do you not want to be the away team at? So let's begin at the bottom of the barrel. Yes, some of these teams in this bottom five do have specialties about where they or how they play or their game day atmosphere. Number 16, Vandy. I mean, come on. Your stadium has not been built in the last couple of years. The only thing relevant about going to Vandy is that is in Tennessee. There's a lot of things to do around the city there. So if you get bored before the game's even over, you can go bar hopping right there and all kind of things, and I think this is the most appropriate for Vandy being the bottom here. Jump up, number 15, Kentucky. Really, your football traditions hasn't been explosive enough to create a game day atmosphere where me as a fan would want to take a road trip to come see you play. Now, if you're a diehard Kentucky fan, you bleed the blue and the Wildcat Nation, more than likely you're still going to show up. But you're waiting till football over is to get into the basketball coliseum to where I think you're best fitted for sports right now. Yes, you're having a little bit of success here and there, and this could improve. But in the next couple of years with Stoops there, I don't think it's going to be a real hated place to come play. we jump up to the 14th spot, Missouri. You were fairly new to the conference here. When did you join? 2012, 2014, around that area. Yes, you have had some good games here. Just not, again, as Kentucky and Vandy, just not enough to put a flag on a stake of saying, hey, you're coming to our house and we're going to beat you, wipe you, drag you across the floor kind of thing. But I think it could be coming. Whether you'll ever be a top tier vacation spot, if you want to say, for a visiting team to come play. So not quite yet made it there, Missouri. I mean, again, I don't think you'll ever be top tier elite. You might get up mid pack or so, but compared to the schools that we have on this list, you've got some work to do. Now, one of the things going into this, especially looking at this old school, or not old school, the way that we broke this down or tried to break it down as far as game day atmosphere once the kickoff is ready. Now, I believe, and even I've talked to some of the crew, and if you want to go to a just banger party before the game, here at number 13, Ole Miss is a place to go. The Grove is probably one of the best tailgating experiences that you can have in the SEC. It's wall-to-wall tents, TVs, food, bar. There's all kind of, as much as I've seen on it, that would definitely be a destination place I would want to go to, watch a game, and see that environment. It's so jam-packed. It just looks like so much fun. And to the other hand, I guess it could be, if you're having a later game doing the party thing, I guess it could kind of get weary. But overall, for atmosphere outside the game, yes, Ole Miss definitely takes the number one spot at the Grove. But it transitions into the ball game where they fell to 13th on this list, as even the last couple of years, Jackson Dart, I guess you could put Eli in that category, really put this Ole Miss team kind of somewhat on the map, being up in playoff, getting close to playoff rankings and being in the top 25. But again, as these other teams haven't made it to that level where that you would just want to come watch the game. If you're going to an Ole Miss game and you're not a super diehard Ole Miss fans, yes, you're probably going to the Grove for the first 4 or 5 hours for the ball game. Even if it's a late game, it's a all-day thing. If you even make it in to the game here, so Ole Miss not there for the football. A lot of people would be, but definitely for the party at the Grove before the game. Probably best tailgate in the nation, definitely in the SEC. Number 12, Arkansas. Not did a whole much on them, but I think this is a lot with the lower teams, is that you're not football prominent to make this a hated to come to visiting school as far as playing. A couple years ago when Darren McFadden, y'all had all the, it was a good game, a good time to go for a ball game. But now, as mediocrity sits in with Arkansas, it's not a wanted to go to game. But yes, very, very nice stadium and stuff like that around it. But and of course, again, the party atmosphere before that is like any tailgate, but not as good as some as the others. You're on a trending track to move up in this. I still believe Sam Pittman's on the hot seat for the upcoming year, but that's a different story. So I think you are where you need to be at right now, here in this bottom side of the good, better, best, however that's supposed to go, SEC stadiums. So now at number 11, probably one of the loudest environments to come play at in the SEC due to the artificial noisemaker. Mississippi State has had decent ball teams in the past, with the Dak Prescotts and really been good, and they could have cracked the top 10 of this easily. But as Mississippi State wise, their biggest thing is here would be the cowbell. It's very loud. It turns your head ringing after 4.5 hours in the stadium of constant more cowbell. Which would drive me absolute bonkers, and probably most of you. But down there, it's one of them things that the kids come out of the womb holding cowbells. So I get it for that reason. And definitely, I think you had a lot more during the Mike Leach era, as I don't want to say fan participation, but Mike Leach was one of them guys that made you want to come to the game because you never know what was going on. So there is some transitioning there from the Mike Leach, and now with South Carolina. I can't think of the coach. You'd think I'd have him on podcast and would know who the coach was. But no, like I said, and that kind of rounds out the top schools, which say nothing bad about them schools if you're that diehard fan that has season tickets every year. But that's not what we're looking for in this. We're wanting to find out the best, I would say, the best stadiums for the home team, but the worst for an away team to come in and try to get that win. So we cracked the top 10. Let's take a look at it. So at number 10, Texas, very new still as in last year to the conference, DKR Memorial Stadium. And I think what helps Texas out a lot here is how good they are and how good they're trending up. Of course, game day atmosphere in any of these is now we're getting to where we're selling out probably every other week or so many things like that when we're playing at home. But Texas, they have a lot to do down there as well. But a lot of these times, this is not one of them games that you'd want to leave the stadium. And if you do, it's because Texas had just blew them slap out of the water. So I like Texas sitting right here. I think they can move up in the years to come. With now where they got with viewers, now Manning's coming back in. I think it's an exciting time to be a Texas fan, and being loud and just that. I think I do like Texas at 10. I don't know if I like them over this number 9 spot as Oklahoma. Here, these are the two newest teams at 9 and 10. Coming from the Big 12. And Oklahoma played, there was 3 or 4 different names, and this was the actual what's on the thing. It's the Gaylord Family Memorial Oklahoma Stadium. And it's called Prairie on the Prime or something on the Prairie. So I don't know, but it's and the same as Texas. Now that Oklahoma got a taste of its own medicine once they moved to the SEC and really got banged around a lot. I don't think maybe I do think it hurt them a little bit, but I think they could have been a little bit lower on this. But the things I looked at and kind of what we tossed around, but I think this is kind of gonna come down as we see Oklahoma to slip into more of mediocrity in the SEC. And I believe Texas will jump that and can make them higher on this list. I know we're kind of moving quite along. This might not even be a super long show. We're right at like 15 minutes in, guys. So let me get a swig because I get parched really fast. Now we look at the number 8 spot, which is probably a lot of tradition laced in Kyle Field, where Texas A&M plays. This is some of the craziest fans as far as some of the stuff they do. Did I miss the 12-man at Mississippi State? I probably did. Anyway, but Texas A&M, they have that silly. No, Texas A&M's 12-man. I'm confused. But no, they do the yippee-yi-ki-yay where the cheerleader guys dance in their overalls, which I think is silly, but they love it down there. Like I said, they have the kids down there with the little towels, and they all have them little lassie dogs running around, which I don't think 8th is a bad place because it is an environment that I would be reluctant to want to play in because they usually pack out the stadium week in, week out. So not a bad spot here for Texas A&M. Yeah, fans, please, if you are, get in to the live. I don't think we're live, but get in. Let us know your comments about where we're at, how you like the list so far. Once we get into the top 5, I'll have a little more information on some things. But, I'm doing my best on my little unicycle with all my toes. So, number 7. This is where South Carolina stands, and they play at Williams-Brice Stadium. The Sandstorm is, I think, their biggest thing, and they have rowdy fans that, when that song comes on, and I think they do that, they're going into the 4th quarter, it's electric. Just one of them things that me and Todd talked about, want to do the stadium tours of the SEC, which we're not rich by any means or could probably ever afford to do that, but it would be fun, and I think it would be one of the top stadiums if we had to pick 3 or 4 to go to. I think this would be one of them at South Carolina. After Spurrier really brought a passion back to South Carolina. When they didn't win a lot, but they win more, and it got more fans involved. And I think that could be a lot to do with some of these teams is a little bit of past and present of the coaching staff that help brings in the better players to get your fans more excited to come to the games and be ready. But South Carolina, I think they do. It's not called maroon out, but some kind of color scheme thing that they do. And it might be a blackout or whatever, but it's a really cool thing to see. And now we're getting into the point of this where this is where students and fans are packing these stadiums again, like I said, week in, week out to help bring the home team to victory, which is where I get in at number 6 is Sanford Stadium in Athens, Georgia. Is probably a top 4 or 5 destination if you're wanting to see an ultimate SEC Sand experience. Yes, and the crazy part is there's 5 more teams ahead of them. You watch the Georgia games and stuff, and you see the fans, the Road Warrior spike pads, the Dog Pound. There's even, I think, been some ESPN 30 for 30s on some of the guy that painted the bulldog on his head, and all kind of things like that. So there's so much rich in tradition. Now, it hasn't worked out in the past once they do like a blackout or something, because I think the first time they did the blackout in Sanford Stadium, they got the piss whipped out of them by Alabama, which is in this list. It happens a lot to these teams that Alabama has played against. But no, a really fun environment. They do have some crazy parties and stuff that I looked into, but nothing as far as like the Grove or more than your regular tailgating experience at Sanford Stadium. And as well as that, their night games are electric. And some of these next top 5 teams is where SEC night games play the biggest potential to win, being the home team, because it's like when the sun goes down, the moon comes out, you turn into that mad, crazy fan who's slobbering, drooling, having your signs and, flipping birds to little kids. It's not that crazy, but you get what I'm saying. So now we're going to jump into the top 5. We're going to pause for hydration. And this is where let's say, outside fan, but if you're a sports fan, you would want to have these 5 on your list to to go see, to experience. And I've been to 2 of these teams' home games, got experience, and I've got to see, I think, all 5 stadiums except one in person. 2 or 3 were not on game days that we just got to go through the stadium and look at it. But it's really cool to still do that, but still experiencing the full whole game day from tailgating to kickoff till closing the tailgate and going home kind of thing. These are definitely stadiums that you would like to visit. Starting off at number 5, which easily in some people's mind, definitely in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, this was the best place to play in the country. And yes, I did use some of my stats from EA Sports and stuff like that, where if you remember playing the college game, I think at one time this was the worst place to play, where you had the little meter, you could get the crowd pumped up for 2 or 3 years, which this was in the Spurrier era down at Florida, which is one of the places I have visited, and it's huge but small, compact. The field seems fairly close to the fans, and you're getting that game day experience. I've stood where the swamp sign is, and just taking it all in was really breathtaking for a sports fan. But Ben Hill Griffin Stadium is in Gainesville, Florida, built in 1930. They started construction that same year, which a lot of these teams started earlier and finished a little bit later. But capacity here is 88,545, which they definitely jam more than that on these big games. Florida's not known so much for their night games, but I'm pretty sure it's just as crazy as these other teams, where it is a hard place to play regardless, but at night even more. The Florida Gators have dropped 2 home games in each of the past 2 seasons while searching for footing under new coach Billy Napier at the time. However, it will take more than a couple of years to change Ben Hill Griffin Stadium's reputation as a nightmare venue. For opponents, the Gators are 32-2 inside the swamp from 2005 to 2009 during the Urban Meyer heyday of his coaching. And it was like that with Spurrier as well. So super awesome. Yes, I definitely would pick this on one to go to. They have had a few updates. I think they've had 11 updates since the inception in 1930. This is either expansions or upgrades to the overall stadium. I just combined all the stats that I had into one, because I think other teams have a few more. And some actually did full renovations to the stadium, or they just added a new section or some new columns or a new video board, and I just rounded them all together. So, guys, if you're listening, watching, whatever, Ben Hill Griffin in Gainesville, Florida is definitely a destination place for a great SEC game to go to, but then I think, or a better SEC to go to. But if you're just going to a regular game, I think it's one that will be good to experience if you are that type of fan. Number 4 on the list brings us just across 2 states. We're going to Knoxville, Tennessee, where Neyland Stadium is. And this is one I have visited as well. Got to see the sights around the stadium, the Pat Summitt statue, the great basketball coach. And they had some Smokey statues. They had a small little Hall of Fame, Reggie White, Peyton Manning, stuff like that, which Peyton is one of my all-time favorite players, college, pro, Heisman, all that stuff. But yes, it's a super large venue, bowl shape. I like that. But one of their biggest things is their, I believe they call it the Nightmare game, or Nightmare Rocky Top, or whatever it is. But it's usually in a night game. And I think it's where they wear the blackout uniforms with the that super dark orange on it, and they pretty much slow down Rocky Top to real creepy, and it's really cool to experience, which I have not game day wise, but it's super, super creepy, super cool to be at a night game at any of these next top stadiums. But the fireworks show now that all these stadiums here or going to a more of a LED lighting, and it changes, especially it changes the night game when they can turn and stop and turn on the lights, flicker them, and pump music through your. I mean, these are type games that you want to be at. So, quick note run here on Neyland. Neyland Stadium ranked only 4th in Orlando Progress, but it's still in the list of the toughest places to play. Underestimate the orange insanity in your own parrot. Former Oklahoma Star quarterback Baker Mayfield once called Neyland Stadium a different type of loud, and it was probably the best game experience I've had. And this is from Baker Mayfield, one of the best college quarterbacks come through recently. So again, I think this is another destination spot. I would preferably like to do a night game and experience that. But Neyland Stadium was built in 1921. I think this is the earliest of the stadiums that I found that I did the extensive research. I know it's definitely in the top 5. Capacity is at 101,951. But I think they had a game against Florida back in 2015 or 2015 where they packed in, I know it was 109,000 plus. So could you just imagine 109,000 people screaming, hollering, whether you're on the Tennessee side or the visiting side, how nerve-wracking that would be for an opponent to come play in. They've had two stadium expansions total for 18 different upgrades as recently have put new stands in and some new scoreboards. But definitely as further we're going to move over, all these are great places to go. But Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, Tennessee need one to be on your list. Now at the number 3 spot is one I've had the most experiences with. That's because you all know that I'm a huge diehard Auburn fan. And I'm starting to notice too, as we got into this, that how did I mess that up on Florida? Go back, quick note. Florida Stadium is actually Steve Spurrier Field at Ben Hill Griffin. And I've noticed a lot of coaches' names are going that too, which is not any different from Auburn, as Auburn plays at Pat Dye Field at Jordan Hare Stadium. And again, like I said, this is I've had the most experiences. I've witnessed probably one of the greatest college football games in history to some people. And yes, and I think so as well, unless something tops. Just everything was on the line, the game at the Kick Six. Me and my really, really good friend Frankie, we got to go one year for Christmas, and it was such a fun time. Now, as far as atmosphere-wise, outside the game, yes, it is nothing like the Grove, but it is good family fun. The family tent area is great for kids. Things like that. Now, there are certain parts where it's like you're a college student, and yes, they're doing college student things, beer pong, keg stand, partying up and living that. In the later games, that could be a turn off for families, but overall, the experience, once you get in at game time now, it's a whole different ball game. Because yes, I've been to night games, I've been to day games. Yes, the day games are a little more calmer, but it's still a really good place. And the last couple of games I've been to were sold out, and I think Auburn had I think it was like a 21 or 20 or 25 plus game home sell out record. I don't know if that still stands now. But yes, witnessing the Kick Six was really one of my favorite, and it was a night game. Just everything in the Iron Bowl is we're going to get into rivalries here soon. But yeah, Auburn is just 12 for 10 in Jordan Hare Stadium over the past 3 seasons after a series of close losses against top 15 foes Georgia, Alabama, and Ole Miss last season. But Auburn is unmatched in its potential for miracles. Just consider the prayer at Jordan Hare and the Kick Six to beat Georgia, Alabama occurred in consecutive games in November of 2013. So, and like I said, and I've been to other games that have just that such atmosphere. when I was younger, maybe in high school or something, we went to the West Virginia game. And I can't think of the quarterback for West Virginia, but it's called the rain game. If you know anything about Auburn football, it rained for 2-3 hours, and we sat right in the rain. The student section was crazy, and Auburn come back to beat West Virginia in that game, which was really super cool. But besides that, the night games now, I know Kelly, my daughter, she's been to a couple of the night games. The swag surf is her favorite. She'll have her little pom-poms and back and forth. The game day atmosphere from kickoff to the final seconds is nonstop at Jordan-Hare. And I know that because I've seen it myself. It's really oriented for everybody as far-wise as wanting a good game to go see. And definitely still, I hope to attend more games next season, and keep my strive alive for the Auburn fans. But definitely for not Auburn fans, it's a great place to come play. The atmosphere is electric. Even when I know it's bummer if Auburn does lose. Now I haven't been to a blowout game at Jordan-Hare as far as Auburn getting beat, so I really haven't seen that side of it. But close games at Jordan-Hare are really exciting. So definitely, again, like I'll probably say it for the next two as well, definitely a destination place for any SEC casual fan. Now we jump into number 2, which for the foes of Auburn Tigers is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Here again, they have another coach, which I think last year they dedicated the field to Nick Saban. So the Tide play at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And yes, just last year I got to experience my first game day at Alabama. Really great experience as far as inside the game, because we all know that Brittany's a huge Alabama fan, so we've committed each other to doing things together at Auburn and Alabama. For the tailgating part of it, we didn't do much as far as the barbecuing and all that, but there were some things that we did in there. We did the Bear Bryant Museum, which was super fun. Really got to meet a couple of the players. Stuff outside the stadium. What's the one? The Walk of Champions. We done that. Thought it was pretty cool. As some of the other things we did. Alabama's very rich in tradition, and I noticed that this is a business meeting when you go into Bryant-Denny Stadium, and you could even tell that during the Walk of Champions. You know, DeBoer's first walking in behind. You know, players are dressed to the nines. I really like that for me as a fan to see how cool that was. Like I said, we did a few things outside the stadium, and this was a day game we went to. I don't remember. I know Alabama won like 35-17 or whoever they played, but nonetheless, it was a super great experience. And I know for some fans, day games, night games are a little bit different, but it was super fun. Just a side note here, Alabama owned a 21-game home winning streak before a loss to Texas at Bryant-Denny Stadium last season. The Crimson Tide were so dominant at home under Nick Saban that the legendary coach consistently had to prod Alabama students to remain engaged through what seemed a never-ending series of blowout wins. But when a quality foe comes to town, this place is defeating and often demoralizing other opponents. And that is so true. Definitely during the Nick Saban era that if you were a lower team, like as in Buffalo or something like that, you were going to get, I don't want to say get the score ran up, but Nick Saban executed to the T. You know, that's why he 7-8 titles. I get that, and that's what makes Alabama, I think, even puts it higher up on this list because of the caliber of play at Bryant-Denny that led him to so many championships under Nick Saban. But Bryant-Denny is in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, built in 1929. I believe they started construction in 28. Capacity here is second highest in the SEC, or third highest in the SEC, 101,000 roughly. In fact, one of the fewer upgrades to, they only had 8, and I don't think they've ever done a full revamp of the stadium, but I know I can remember in the past years that they've done more seating to gain that, especially in the end zones and stuff like that. So again, Alabama fans, you were definitely where you deserve to be here. The lore behind Alabama ranks high here. So let's take that. If just saying, I could say this for any of these top teams. If you take the winningness, I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but if your team wasn't as well as, like say, the Sabins and the Tennessees and Floridas through the years, would you still be that in the game day atmosphere? And I think that does track off some, because everybody wants to be a part of a winner. I would definitely rather go to an Alabama game than to go watch Kentucky or somebody like that play. But there's no room for that here, because Alabama has been dominant for the last decade or so in doing it. And I think that's why they deserve this number 2 ranking. Definitely in this best stadiums tour that we're doing. So, well, let's get down to the meat and potatoes. And it should be under nobody's guessing that the number 1 was going to be the LSU Tigers, who play at Tiger Stadium, also known as Death Valley. So this is, and it's been said before, this is where teams go to die, dreams go to die. National championship teams are won here. The crazy thing is, and me and Brittany kind of got to talking about it pretty heavily the other day, as far as great as LSU is, but when Alabama comes to town, they really flip the script here at Death Valley. And I think they beat them the last 2 or 3 times they've been in Death Valley. But that's beside the point. Let's talk about the atmosphere here at Tiger Stadium. What a crazy! I think they were 6 or 5-1 last year at home. I don't know if I've got that stat. No, they had, yeah, but all LSU's games were not games at home. I believe all but one. LSU is 11-0 in home games throughout 2 seasons. Okay, so they're perfect at home. Its only home loss in the Kelly era was 11 a.m. local time against Tennessee in 2022, leading credence to the belief that there's just something different about Tiger Stadium at night. The venue is approximately nicknamed Death Valley, as it's a place where dreams go to die, like I said, especially when the lights are out and the fans have spent all day fueling for the game. That's even if they make it into the game. This is a huge party. Again, it's nothing to it like the Grove party, but this is when they wake up, brush their teeth, they've rinsed the toothpaste out with their beverage of choice, and then it's like that all day. It is a rolling party all day. We've seen in the news and some of the shenanigans after games and stuff like that. And just to be drunkard and obnoxious. But I guess every team can have that to a certain sense. But I guess when you're partying all day and eating ribs and stuff like that, you're ready for football and you're passionate about it. Once you get in there, the lights go out and Tiger Stadium lights up. It's the craziest thing. This is the one I've never been to, which definitely I'd like to go. Let's see if I've got a few more stats from Death Valley. If I remember, if I wrote them right, the overall record at Death Valley is 439-154 and only 18 ties, and that's since 1924. And that's a .735. 0.733 winning percentage. That is almost unheard of. Just crazy that their winning percentage is way over 500 for a stadium that's close to 100 years old. You could say. In the 1960s at night, Death Valley was 231 with only 64 losses and 4 ties at a winning percentage of .787, which is you only throughout the 60s only lost 64 games there. So another crazy stat to just prove how good it is to play in Death Valley, and that's at night. Which I don't know how they make out the schedules for SEC to get where they always play night games. But another little fun fact, under Les Miles, and I can't even read them all. Under Les Miles the record was 40-2. So Les Miles' career, I believe he won a title there as well. Only 2 losses there. So what does that go to say where LSU isn't probably one of the greatest stadiums to come play at? Most definitely in the SEC, but in the nation. I'm sure there's other. Virginia Tech has a great game day feel to it. There's others. The whiteout at Penn State, which Auburn has been the victim of. There's so many other different. I can't think if it's Iowa or whoever does the wave at the Children's Hospital. Man, I need to quit drinking Coke this early in the morning. But no, so definitely a must-have for any college football fan. A few more stats here on Tiger Stadium. Of course, they're played in Baton Rouge when it built in 1924. I believe they started construction in 1922. Very small stadium. And another side note, I didn't find out till I did some of these other places. I believe Auburn used to be called Tiger Field. And I think Alabama was just Denny Stadium before the Bear Bryant era. And there's a few places that had 3 or 4 different names, which I did not even know of. But anyway, back to LSU. Capacity is at 102,321. 9 upgrades or transformations for the stadium, which is lower on 11. I just put the wrong stat down. I can't type good. But no, Ascend, definitely a place to be on Saturday night is Tiger Stadium. Definitely don't want to leave the game early for any of these. Brian Kelly has his work cut out. A little bit of disappointing season, but still won at home. So definitely put this on your calendars or your wish list, bucket list to visit Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge. Well, guys, we're getting close to the end here. We're looking about, man, I got long-winded. Of course I did. We're going to jump into our best all-time logo tournament. As again, believe this week we are having 2. The Ole Miss Rebels, really not a variety here. The early logo was the old Rebel, then the next 3 to what is preserved is the old script. Ole Miss writing. Fans, get out there, vote. All our social medias, I believe, have this up, so I think you have at least 3 or 4 different chances to vote on different platforms. The next one is our South Carolina Gamecock logo, which for Jud and Brandon do look similar to their alma maters at Jacksonville. They really kept the Gamecock in there. And the last 2, they put the Carolina C around it. So please, we love the fan experience. Get in there, jump in, vote.